All right, everybody, let's let's get started. Um, Here we go. So, a couple of things to get going. I was able to figure out the Tailwind stuff yesterday. I was on an old version of Tailwind, um, so we'll be able to see that here soon. Um, I want to just show you. This is the command that you can use, and using this command, we can target like next. So any packages. Um, Latest, newest, greatest, minor, patch, Semver. Let's try newest. Newest. Um, so yeah, you can see with newest that we're also picking up alphas and canary builds. Um, and so, we can check alphas with the newest command. The other one that I used to fix the tailwind issue yesterday is you can check for just minor versions. And the problem we had was that Tailwind wanted to upgrade to version 4, but version 4 of Tailwind requires version 5 of Daisy, and I wasn't ready to make that change. So um, we can see that we've got a couple of like minor upgrades going on. So with the target of minor, it picks up, you know, patch upgrades and minor upgrades. And we'll see if we take that off. These are still the same ones, but notice that with the minor upgrade, right now we're on 3417, but Tailwind wants to go to version 4. We don't want to make that change. So to make sure that we're getting the latest changes to Tailwind that's compatible with our version of Daisy, we need to use that minor flag. Um, so that's one thing to be aware of. And NZU makes this nice, right? Because I can come in and yes, I do want to update Jest and I do want to upgrade TypeScript, the ESLint stuff. So we're gonna do that. I should have said no there because it's gonna fail. I need to force use legacy peer deps. Yeah. Um, One thing we want to do here. I haven't been good with my branches. Let's grab the main branch here. We're going to swap to main. We're going to pop the changes we just made. Then we're going to branch and we're going to just say task. And this is going to be like our Merc list, right? We want to get things ready to go and just have everything completed, and then we're going to start paring it back, so that we can start working on the workshop. And that may be something we do today and tomorrow. Um, but we're just gonna commit this and just say, hey, we upgraded depths, stage all of these, and commit that. We'll push that. There we go. We're in a good place to get started. So now we can just run our serve. Warp is such a good terminal, and it works so well in Windows. Um, it it was the one thing that I was missing when I would come to Windows from Mac. But now that I've got access to Warp, man, it's such a good terminal. All right, so let's bring up our browser. And if you guys remember yesterday, this stuff was all um, it was all pretty ugly, right? A lot of white. There's a lot of color here, but going on with my buttons. We'll figure out the buttons. Because this is pretty hideous. Um, yeah, this is still pretty hideous. We'll get these figured out. Um, but there's a lot of color going on here. We'll fix this up, make it look a little bit better. This stuff should probably not be colored. Maybe give some color to the name and change some colors here and stuff like that. But we'll worry about that here in a little bit. Let's get the piece in. Go take a look at our Excalidraw. Um, so this is the piece that we're looking at right now is this piece right here. The next piece is this choice piece. We're going to run this using a resource. Um, so adding to it will add to the resource, removing from it will remove from the resource, and the resource will give us all the information we need. So our resource is going to kind of manage a lot of the state of our, like this is the main piece of our application, right? Um, this piece basically interacts with this piece, but this is the main piece. So the main piece of state that we need to manage and handle will be here. So let's get that piece built, and then start adding state to it. Um, so to do that, let's jump into our WebStorm. So this is our Merc choice, right? Next to that, we want another component. We'll come back to this one. Need that. Might need some of these services, but we'll take a look at them in the future. Our TS config. There's an interesting article that I saw today that temporal is part of ES 2024. I'm hoping that that's the case. Yeah, this is the Tailwind stuff that we tried to play with. I also tried some stuff with Index and just realized eventually that the issue had to do with my version of Tailwind. Okay, so here we've got our Merc choice component. Let's add a new NX component. So we're going to add a new component. And this component, we're going to call this our Merc list. So Merc list, Merc dash list. So yesterday we experimented a bit with the .ng. And there were a couple of things I didn't like about it. One of the things I didn't like was when you import something, I do like the component. So usually I'm not a big fan of like postfixing or suffixing your or prefixing or postfixing your variables, right? Like some languages use Hungarian notation, and it's a convention because modern editors anymore will give you the type. But the convention, like if you're using an integer, you might call it like I number of days, right? Or if you're using a Boolean, you might go B, you know, is verified, or S. For some languages, S is SZ, which is a zero terminated string. For some other languages, they just do S, right? So like SZ name or S name, things like that. That's Hungarian notation. It tells you the type of the variable. And that comes from the old days when I first started programming, and you didn't get as much information from your IDE as you do now. I don't typically like prefixing or postfixing things like that. You even see it. So you see it in .NET. And where it shows up in .NET is with interfaces. So it's very common in like .NET to have like an I person interface, or an I an I sales interface, or who knows, right? So that I represents interface. Um, it's common to see that, right? I don't do that kind of prefixing in my Angular. The one place where it really starts to bother me was yesterday when I started using the NG, and I went to go grab my Merc choice component, and I really wanted that component on the end. And when I went and renamed the class, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to rename the class, why not rename the file? Um, so I don't know. I'm still torn on the .ng file recommendation. I'll come around to whatever the community decides, right? Once the final decision's out, and it may be a .ng, um, but we'll try again, just to show you guys. Um, so with your generator, and if you're using NX, you can use the NX dev tools, right? And it gives you a nice visual way. Our change detection, we're going to make it on push, on push. Our display block, we'll leave it as a display block. Export default. We don't. So this is an interesting one. So uh, the when you're lazy loading components, you can export a default component, and that has the opportunity to right. You can import, and it will grab the default named export. And you shouldn't have more exports in your component files anyway. So this is an interesting one. I don't use it. We're going to inline our style and inline our template. Um, And the only reason I'm inlining style is because we're using Tailwind. And because we're using Tailwind, most of our styles need to exist in global files that Tailwind can parse and understand. So there's no reason, like we shouldn't have a ton of style, so we can keep our styles in the file. Inlining the template, we went over this a bit yesterday, but I always inline the template because it helps me keep my templates more focused. It encourages me to extract components where possible, because the template tends to cause my source file to grow, and I get really antsy when my source files get above a certain size. Um, so here's the interesting one. I'm curious if here, instead of doing this, we do Merc list component, right? Um, so we'll try that. Our selector we're going to leave as just Merc list. We're not going to skip imports. We're not going to skip the selector. We're not going to skip tests. We're going to leave our styling as CSS. Here, we're going to change this type to NG. And what you'll see is down here, it's now merc list.ng, right? Um, and then our view encapsulation, we're just going to leave alone. So we'll go ahead and generate this file, and we'll see what this does for us. So if we look here at our Merc list, notice that we're a lot smaller. We don't need this file anymore, actually. Might delete right here. So it is saying we are trying to use that. I'm curious, is it here? In this component, yeah. So we can just take this out. We don't need that. So there we go. That's good. So let's take a look at our Merc list.ng. Oh, interesting. So it added Merc list component ng to it. We're gonna rename that, which also means that our tests are gonna be broken, right? Because they're gonna do that. One thing you could do here is instead of doing this, you could do Merc list component dot name, right? And that's going to give you the same thing as what we had there originally. Man, there's a lot of these. So there we go. So, we cleaned up our test file. This is a weird, this file should be a test file. I was gonna go check it, and I did need to check it. Just grab all of these. So there we go. Oh. There we go. And we can also right. And the only reason we're doing this, that says Merc list. This should be Merc choice. The main reason we're doing this is because it gives us the ability to strongly type the name, right? So if we rename our class, our tests keep up to date. All right, so our Merc list, if we take a look at things now, go take a look. We haven't added it to the app. That's the reason why nothing would happen, right? So here, if we just add our app, dash Merc list, did it? This is the Merc choice. This is a Merc list. Close that, close that, close that. It did add component here. So we'll clean that up. So app Merc list, right? And that's not going to work because we need to import the Merc list component, which it does. And one thing I like to do is I like this stuff to be alphabetized. And the reason for that is it just helps me quickly scan this, right? And if we add a comma here, it's going to make that kind of stuff easier. So there we go. And if we format with prettier, I think prettier is already running. So there we go. So now if we go take a look at our application, we should see so we've only got the Merc choice. Why is that? Because there's our Merc list. We can see the Merc list there. Refresh. Ah, it's not a known element. Merc list is there. Merc list component works. Our display block is there. App merc list is our selector. Merc list components. So I don't have a standalone false in here, so it should be standalone. So there's my merc list component. Usually I do something stupid like bruh, right? Or something like that. Trying to be a little bit more uh, a little bit more professional on stream, but who cares, right? Um, big Stark lighter. So, oh, here we go. There it is. It's down here. Um, so we need to take a look at our app components. So the problem is I don't have interesting. Let's go ahead and remove this. And it's probably faster to just hit the delete key. Um, delete it anyway. Here, we're going to pull this out. But we can see that our class has a whole bunch of stuff in it, right? But what it doesn't have um, is anything to lay out the class. And we want it to be, we can be a grid. Um, so let's lay it out like a grid, right? Um, so we can say, hey, we want a grid layout, right? And then we want grid dash calls, and we want 2 grid columns. We're going to start with that, but we're gonna change things up just a little bit here in a bit. But if we change this to be 2 grid columns, now our team is right. It's messed up because pick your team should be centered across the top, and these two should be next to each other. Um, we can fix that by setting our class here to be a call span 2. And that's going to create a grid section where we span multiple columns. And now you can see, hey, our classes all work, right? But now we've got kind of this ugly mess here. Um, so what we can do is we need to modify our columns. And we want um, we want one column to fill the remaining space in our grid, and we want the other column to have a max width. Um, so what we can do is very similar to what we did with the choice component here. Um, if we look at this one, with our choice component, we added up here. So we can add this var to it, right? So what we need to do is we need to pull open our styles. That's not what I wanted. So we'll pull open our styles file. And in our styles file, we can have our, this will be our main layout columns, right? And what we want is we want one fraction, and then we want a min max of, so we want our min content to be one fraction, and our max content to be, we want the max content to be the max size that we want this column to grow. And what I think we should do is let's go the other way. We'll make the min content max content, and then we'll make the max content like 25% and see what that gives us, right? So we can say here, we can say, hey, this is max content. And then our min content can be, or our max content can be 25%. And so now if we go to our Merk list ng, no, it's on our app component, right? Yeah. So now if we go to our app component here, we can go grid calls, and we should be able to, and I'll see if this works now that we're in the newer version of Tailwind, but we should be able to just grab our variable here. So in our styles, it's just our main layout columns. We can just say, hey, we want our grid columns to be main layout calls. Is that what I called it? Or did I call it columns? I call it columns. Right? And so now we've got our classes on this. And if we look, it didn't rebuild. Let's inspect this. So if we take a look at this grid right here, interesting. Like if we inspect this grid, it's got that var in it, text secondary text gap. Grid calls this, grid template columns that, right? So I'm not seeing the grid columns here, but somehow what's interesting is on this, got our root and our pros. For whatever reason, these are breaking out this way instead of the way they were before. So this still doesn't work, but we can go and just go var here. And that should work for us. Oh. Where is it? So we've got the main layout columns. It should be a max of 25%. But take a look at our variable here. Can I get here? Yeah, variables here. So if I go one fraction here, we do 3 fractions here. No. Um, so it has to be min content. Um, I don't want min max. That's the problem. Schizophrenic. I'm at home all day recovering. Oh, dude, I am sorry to hear that. Hopefully, hopefully you recover and things go well, and hopefully I can at least be entertaining to you, right? I don't think we want min max here. What I think we want is instead of min max, I think we just want min, the minimum of the max content or 25%. Because min max is fighting itself and it's not really what we wanted. We just wanted the smaller of these two. Um, that's not working. Not working. If set this again, min content, right? Instead of now it doesn't work. Min max in content or 25%. Right. So that'll be fine. We want a gap here. Yeah. We also want this to take up more of our screen. Like, what is causing? We inspect this. Our app root. We got some padding on it, but that's just allowing us to come in. We might take some of the padding off on the side. The margin top is pulling us off the top. And these autos, these margin autos, you know what? Maybe we just want to make this a width of like 80 or 90%. So we could come here. We could go width. We'll go 90 to start with, and we'll drop that down to a 4 pixel. And let's also give it a gap. A gap of 1. That should be fine. Maybe we want more gap. We'll try a gap of 2. Oh, and I need to fix my min max, right? So we'll do a gap of 2 here. And then here, our min max, this should just be min dash content. and a max of 25%. And then the rest will just, it'll fill up the rest. Um, what have I done wrong here? So we've got a lot less space around the outside, which is fine. Got a gap of 2. My main column layout. It's min content. We'll just say auto. That work? No. What if oh, I didn't do min max. I just did min. Forgot to add my min max here. There we go. That should fix it. There we go. So one thing I'm noticing is that my width of 90 is not doing. Where's my width 90 class here? Roots. Let's go take a look at our Tailwind stuff. And let's find width. It's 9/10. That's what we want. It's not width 90, it's 9/10. So width 9/10. We'll make this take up 90%. Oops, that's TypeScript. There we go. So now it's a little bit bigger, and if we drop the size, no, it's not working. Definitely not working. It's like if I do width 90% here. If I do, that's not affecting anything. Anyway, let's take a look. Things min max will stay at 25% all the day. Min will be minimal 25%. Yeah, well, and that's what kind of UI library? Tailwind is a prefix. Tailwind with Daisy, and we're just building something really really simple. The idea is that you're building a mercenary team of just we're using Star Wars API, right? So we're going to be cleaning this up a bit. So this is our mercenary team picker. This will be the list of all the mercenaries that they picked when they hit the hire button. But the issue is this is definitely not 90% of the available content. And as this grows, it will probably stick at 25. There might be some screen widths where it actually grows a little bit. We'll see. But you're absolutely right. The max is probably always going to be 25%, and I could probably hard code that. Um, you know what? You convinced me. We don't really need this. We can just go, hey, the max we want this to be is 25%, right? That will always be 25%. My concern here is that my width 9/10 is not working, and I'm fairly certain that if we go I don't want to use size, but we could use size. But like width 96, these are all pixel widths, percentages, 2/5, but let's go with width large and see what happens there, right? So we'll go width large and see if that gives us anything better. So when we inspect this, we're looking at our app root, right? And gap grid, card pros. See, I see the width dash large here. But I'm not seeing it. Like if we filter this down, W dash LG, we don't even have the width in here. Um, and we're on version, oh, this is version 4. Let's go here. That could be our problem. So here, now let's look for width. Maybe width large doesn't exist. Width in pixel, viewport width. So I'm looking at the wrong version of Tailwind, and that's why I'm trying to do some stuff. Um, so they don't have, so they don't have a 9/10. That's why. Um, so let's do an 11/12. And the reason they probably don't have the 9/10 and instead have an 11/12 is probably based on the it's based on the grid system from Bootstrap. A lot of things have like a 12 column layout because that's what Bootstrap used way back in the day. So there we go. So now if I take a look at this and let's refresh. So we're seeing it's gotten a little bit bigger. We take a look. Where is my width on here? Oh, I did margin top 11/12. I'm messing up here. Width 11/12. There we go. That should fix our issue, maybe. So now if we look at W-11, So there it is. How big is it? It's definitely not 90%. Um, so I've got something that's setting like a max width, probably. The pros is a max width of 65. Oh, look at that. Max width is causing some issues for us. Pros is showing up. Why would my media query like the selectivity of this? Um, this one has got a higher selectivity. Trying to figure out why. Is it just because of where it shows up here? Like if I move my pros to the end, and the main reason I'm using pros is that it grabs that. Um, it grabs the pros to whoops. There we go. So now if I take a look, no, pros is still a higher selector. Let's take the pros class off and see what it does to our let's see what it does to, oh, there we go. Oh, but look, my font's changed, right? My fonts are definitely different. Do I care that much? Because what I hate is that prose is adding, like without prose, right? Um, we're losing some of the stuff on our text, like the bolding and stuff like that. Um, but with it, we get this max width. Um, there we go. So what if we do max width unset and um, we add a class equals pros here. Um, yeah. And then we take the pros out of here. Yeah, now we're even worse off. Because now like our max width is 65 characters. Um, let's go take a look at our Tailwind stuff. Um, And so we want to take a look at Tailwind typography. And let's see if there is a prose class that removes that max width, right? Ah, Prose XL. So I don't want to change the size of the font, right? Um, you prefer Bootstrap more than Tailwind? Tailwind, like once I get back into it, it's always it usually works out well, but it's figuring out these small issues, right? Like they do get a little bit frustrating that like it's frustrating that Prose adds a max size and for whatever reason it's a higher selectivity than my container. Um, Overriding max width, right? Each size modifier comes with a baked in max width designed to keep content as readable as possible. This isn't always what you want though, and sometimes you want the content to just fill the container. In those cases, all you need to do is add a max-w-none to your content to override the embedded max width. So if we take our prose off of here, um, right, and we go back to our index.html, because without the prose, the reason we're using the prose class is without the prose, you'll see that it doesn't really like things don't look as good, right? Um, Once we add the prose class in, it cleans things up quite a bit. So if we go to our index HTML and to our HTML, we just add class equals, and let's prose and prose base, and then we just take the max width off of it. Then our container can have its own max widths. There we go. So now our container is what's specifying our max width. Um, and things are looking a lot better. Although our text color is now broken. um, why did that break my text color? Let's try moving that to the body. Because I don't know why my text color would break. It should be fine. Let's try moving it here. There we go. I don't know what putting it on the HTML did. It must have picked a light font, a light theme, because the HTML doesn't know about the dark themes and stuff like that. It's probably added to the body by Daisy. But there we go. So now we've got kind of the layout we want. And over here, we're going to add a few things. Um, so first off, we're going to just add our for condition. Actually, let's commit this, right? Um, so this is some renames and file moves. Go ahead and commit that. Then we're going to stage this and then fixed layout issues. There we go. So now we're in a good place. Now what we can do is we can go into our listing, and there we want to add a for list here. But to do that for list, we need a list to iterate over. Right now, we're just going to add an empty list, right? So we'll just do a protected mercs equals, and we're just going to do an empty array. And then in our component here, we're just going to say, hey, at for, we're going to say let merc of mercs, and it's not like this. It's not let, it's just merc of mercs. And then we need a track. And here we're just going to do merc.id, right? And here we're just going to do, right now, we'll just do a div, and we'll just do merc.name. Because what we really want to do is we just want to add our @empty clause. For our @empty clause, yeah, we'll just put in no mercs found. So there we go. So now property ID does not exist on never. Great. We're going to say that it's got an ID of a number and a name of a string. There we go. And it doesn't like, we don't care right now. Don't do that in production code. What I just did is horrible. Oh, I don't need that as any. I wasn't telling it was an array. There we go. There we go. And so now we've got our no mercs found, right? So I think I prefer Bootstrap. I'm not a Bootstrap fan, but that, I get where you're coming from. Tailwind is hyped online. Tailwind does some really cool stuff. I like Tailwind, and Tailwind and Daisy do some amazing things, right? So, I'm not opposed to Tailwind and Daisy. Let's go for a 3 out of 4 on this. But I get it, right? Like everybody has their own preferences. Um, I get it. Yeah, I like this one better. Um, and the other thing is I might change this to be kilos instead of just K. Um, let's go the Merc choice and kilos. Um, but our Merc list is now showing right, no Mercs found. That's actually pretty horrible. Um, let's fix that up a bit. But yeah, Tailwind is hyped online. There, there's some good reason for the hype, especially Tailwind with something like Daisy. Um, and I got distracted, but yeah, Tailwind plus Daisy is actually um, one of my favorite combinations. Um, Tailwind does some really, really good stuff. It takes some getting used to, but I actually prefer the Tailwind style. So when I create Angular applications, I don't often put styles in my components anymore. Instead, I'll build up like CSS files that I'll include, and those CSS files will have global level classes. And so I can use those styles anywhere I want, and it tends to work out better. I only use like inline styles for something that's very specific to that component, and I won't be using anywhere else. Sometimes like grid layouts, I'll do that with, but even here you'll see that I'm using custom grid layouts with Tailwind, and things seem to be going okay. Um, so let's clean up this no mercs found. That's actually a horrible error message. This is a programmer's error message, right? No mercs were found. That's just a programmer's error message. It doesn't tell the user anything. Hey, Cerilia Carter, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Um, it um, it means a lot to me. My channel's been growing a bit. Using inline template, why not separate file? Because it's a small component. So in the beginning, schizophrenic, we talked about this, but the reason that I put templates and styles, well, templates inline, styles I'll put inline if I'm using something like Tailwind, where I'm not going to be creating a lot of styles. And actually, I don't even need this style here. We'll fix this up later. But templates inline, the reason I do it is it forces me to think about my components, right? Um, so as my components grow bigger and bigger, you'll notice that like my Merc choice here, I'm down around 80 lines of code for this component. I would like it to be much smaller than that, right? Well, I like to keep my components under 100 lines of code. So if my template starts to grow much bigger, um, like right here, this is a good opportunity for me to create like a mercenary details component, right? Um, and if I do a mercenary details component, all of this stuff can move into that component. All of the styling and stuff I have here can exist there. And then I can do stuff like deferred loads and things like that, where I don't have to load this code until I need it. And that will cause my, my current, um, it will cause my builds to be smaller. Yeah. So Cerilia Carter says, "How are you?" Unfortunately, my headphones broke today because of my naughty cat. But I can't hear your voice. It would be great if you could respond through chat instead. Oh, okay. So sorry to hear about your headphones. Thanks for following. Um, for large components, is this approach not good? So here's the thing, right? If your components are getting really, really large, it's time to start taking a look at where we can extract components. And maybe this is a good example, right? Like right here, this would best be served as another component. So let's do that. Let's go into our components, and we're going to generate a new component. And this component, we're just going to call it our Merc details component, right? And we are going to leave that the same on push. Like, I don't understand why that drop down just never works for me. Um, Display block, we'll leave it for now. Not flat. Oh, so here, notice, oh, it is going to put it in Merc details. Never mind. So I can just leave it as Merc details. That's fine. Flat, inline style, yes. Inline template, yes. Path, prefix, selector, skip import. We're going to do app-merc-detail. Skip import, skip test, standalone, yes. Type, we're going to make this an ng component. And there's a place for name in here that I skipped. Oh, this is the Angular schematic for it. Skip test, standalone type. Let's see what the Angular one does versus the so Cyrilia, I'm from Utah. On the other side of having a lot of separate components is also not that good, I think. Yes. So there are trade-offs, right? Trade-offs always. We'll talk about some trade-offs here that we're introducing. So this details ng. Yeah, see, it didn't give me the ability to name this component. That's fine. App-merc details, imports, that, display block. We might leave that in place. Actually, we don't need that. We're going to grab our Merc choice component. And one of the big trade-offs that we've got here. Come on, why are you not? So let's go into our Merc details, right? And let's paste this in. So one of the big benefits we could get right off the bat is we can take this div out and we can put this class. We can put this class down in our host binding. So we can go here and we can go host, right? And here our class is that, and we change that to a colon. Need to add our comma, right? So one of the things we can do is we can get rid of some of our div spam because we can use our divs, or we can use our components like their semantic things, right? The other thing we need to do is we need to add a read only. And here we need current Merc, and this will be an input of here we can say this is an input of a person, right? And so we need to bring this stuff in. There's our input and there's our person. And there we go. So our current Merc is now a person. Height is possibly undefined. Oh, and we can also do required, right? So now we're requiring there to be a mercenary to display this stuff. But yeah, do I stream daily? I don't stream daily. I'm pretty random lately in my streaming. I stream every Sunday at this time and randomly during the week. But yeah. There might be subtitles. Yeah, I don't remember. Um, for English, there might be. Um, that's a good point. Um, schizophrenic. Closed captions, then other people can read when they can't hear. Let me see. Let me check that out. Um, I believe I have closed captioning turned on. In my mouth. Um, let's see. I'm probably gonna have to look that up, but that is a good point. Settings, stream settings, BOD settings, clip settings, grade settings. In there. I'm gonna have to look it up. That is a good point, though. I'll take a look at that and make sure that I get closed captioning on. It looks like I think YouTube does them by default. So yeah, I'll take a look at closed captioning. That's a good call out. But anyway, so we've now added our Merc details, right? So now we can go back to our Merc list. Nope, it's our Merc choice component. And inside of here, we can now add our app-merc details, right? And we'll import that. So now we've got, our current Merc going in, but this, what did it do? All it did was save us a few lines, right? Big deal. Well, not really, because the other thing we can now do is defer this. And if we defer it, now our Merc doesn't load until the loading stuff happens, right? So now we're serving just a little bit less content. And we could see that with the chunks. So like if we grab a new um, yeah, if we grab a new PowerShell, right? And here we just run an npx nx build. Um, we'll see that we're going to get some extra chunks by adding in those defers. And that's where more and smaller components can help. Because if we look, the initial bundle size, um, we can make that smaller, right? Um, I don't like that, but so we've got this chunk that's 131K. We've got our main chunk, got our styles, but now we've got our Merc details chunk, right? 1.2K. If we go to our app component, right, and we also defer this, right? Um, and we can actually defer both of these. And now if we go back and we look, right, it's rebuilding. Our main chunk is not really changing because of what we're using. But if we run this command again, um, we'll see that our chunk sizes start to get smaller. And for an application the size of mine, this isn't a big deal. But notice how much smaller, how many smaller chunks we've got here, right? So we're at 317.46K on our initial render, right here. We're down to 314, but notice we've got more chunks, right? And every chunk is a place where the browser has to stop and interpret that JavaScript, right? So any chunk we can get out of here and down to here can help our initial page load. One thing we have to be careful of is, right, for us, our application's small, so it doesn't really affect us too much, right? Um, our application tends to load the way we would expect it to. Um, and you know, we're fairly quick. Um, so you know, being careful with defer, making sure that your deferred code isn't breaking the render of your site and things like that. Um, so you know, make sure you're checking your experience for your users. Um, and make sure that as you're checking that experience, that it's what you expect it to be. Um, I lost track of something I was going to say. But anyway, so far our site renders the way we'd expect. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, the reason inlining these templates helps me a lot is that by recognizing that, hey, I could turn this into its own piece. Um, and then in the Merc choice component, I could defer this. I can't defer these buttons. Um, And that's an important thing to recognize. If I put a defer around this, it's not going to do anything. Um, it, the reason for that is that the defer only works for standalone Angular components. So if you want to take advantage of defer, you're going to need components that you can defer. So if I wanted to defer these buttons, then I would need to turn these buttons into a component, right? Which is something that, you know, I would consider, um, you know, because this loading is the first thing that they see. They're always going to see loading first. So everything in this else I could defer until it displays it. Um, and so, you know, I would seriously consider moving these buttons into their own class. Where the workshop tomorrow isn't about that, where the workshop tomorrow is about resources, I definitely want to focus what we're doing on resources. But your question, schizophrenic, is really, really good one. Um, and one that I appreciate. I like people who are thinking critically about the code and don't just say, "Oh, this person knows what they're doing," right? No, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. And if I don't know what I'm doing, you know, asking questions might help me arrive at that, right? Instead of just like, "Hey, you're dumb." Um, oh, don't at me, please. Um, ask away. I want to answer. I will. But yeah, and that goes for anybody, right? Any questions you guys want to ask, just ask them. If I don't want to answer the question, I'm going to ignore it, right? If I want to answer it, I'll answer it. And let's be honest, my chat is slow enough that I answer probably 99% of the questions that are asked of me. Um, ones that are trolling or ones that are trying to get me to buy things or who knows what. I'm not going to answer those questions, but the rest, who cares, right? Um, So, well, and there are other ones that I won't answer. I won't do political stuff, and things like that. It's just, it won't end well for me. Um, it's just better for me to not worry about it at all. Um, yeah. So let's get back to our list, right? And one of the things that's bugging me about this list is I really hate this no mercs found. Um, um, my Discord username. I don't have a Discord. I'm on a couple of different Discords. I'm on the Angular Discord. I'm on a couple other Discords. Like I'm on the NX Discord, a couple other ones. But you can find me there. I'm an Angular GDE on those Discords. But um, yeah, we'll let that be. Um, it's probably a graphic designer. Um, trying to get me trying to do graphics for my stream. Um, Anyway, so like the no mercs found, right? This is a horrible message. We don't want this message. It doesn't give the user anything. Um, so you haven't selected anybody for your team. Please select some team members to continue, right? And this is an error message that class equals and here we're going to do text dash center. We're also going to do and we can do a text dash um, there not an italic, yeah, right. um, let's see how that looks. Yeah, so now our error message is much better for our user experience, right? um, Now, hey, you haven't selected anything, and it tells them what they can do to select somebody. But right now, our hire button does nothing, right? So hiring a merc really does nothing. Skipping does exactly what we want it to, but our hiring button doesn't do anything. And this is where we need our new, what do we want to call it? Our new resource, right? Um, so we're going to build a resource that will control this. Um, so let's do that. Um, so the first thing we want to do is we want to come down to our services, and I've been calling these services, but I might call them resources. So let's generate a new service, right? Um, And this service, we're going to call this our chosen, well, we'll just call this our team resource, right? So this is our team resource. Um, flat path, skip test. Um, so it doesn't really give us a lot of things here, right? And this was the interesting thing. Like I can't even name this file .ng or anything like that. And this goes back to like a tweet last week from Chow that, hey, people aren't using the NG. Absolutely, people aren't using the NG. Most of the tooling doesn't use NG, right? So let's go here to our team service. Let's go ahead and rename this. This will now be our team.ng. Yes, we'll update this. And we'll go ahead and refactor. And here we're also going to rename this to be our team.ng. So there we go. So here, Team NG is a horrible name. This is our team resource. And we're not going to provide this in root. Well, actually, it doesn't matter. What I was going to do is I was going to say, actually, we'll do it this way. We won't provide it in root. And the reason we won't provide it in root, I'm arguing with myself, right? And that's where this gets a little bit difficult. For an application the size of ours, providing it in root doesn't hurt. But we'll do it. We'll still provide it in root. Um, we'll still provide it in root. I don't want to get too complicated here, right? But there are reasons that we may not want our resource provided in root, and we'll leave it at that. But we need our resource to do a couple of things. And if we take a look at a different resource, right? Like this swappy resource, right? We're getting resources from it, and we're using those resources, right? So this resource has a request that we make, right? And the request is what comes in, and then the loader is, what comes out, or what we use to load, how we respond to that request. Um, and so we're going to we're going to make a resource that doesn't just respond to HTTP, right? Um, so one of the things we want to do is we want a team on here, and our team is going to be our resource, right? So there's our resource. And we're going to make our team read only because we don't want people doing stuff with it, right? Resource requires a couple of things, right? And it's telling us right off the bat that our resource doesn't have a default value associated with it. So we can just say, hey, our default value is an empty array, right? But it's still saying, hey, right, default value of a never array is not assignable to anything. Um, and one thing we can say here is, our request can take in a few things, right? So we'll need a way to set up our request. And then the last thing we need is our loader. And it's going to return some stuff, right? And so here we'll just promise.resolve this for now. And so now our team resource has some stuff in it, but it's not very useful. So how do we make it useful, right? Well, one of the things we can do is we can give the ability for our request to come in, right? And there are two types of requests that we want to have. We want one that adds to our team, and we want one that removes from our team, right? And so um, we can add a couple of types, right? So up here we can have type, and this could be add team member request, and this will be and I need to not member but member request equals and here all we want is the merc, and this will be a person, right? We'll need to import person, and then we want to make this a discriminated union. So what we can do is we can add a request type to it. And yeah, add team member, that'll work. So then we've got the other type that's remove team member. And yep. So our request type is going to be remove team member. But here we're not going to do this. We're going to do a merc ID that's a number, right? And so now what we can do is we can set up a signal. And so we can do read only and here we can say, hey, team request equals, and now what we can do is we can just say, hey, it's a signal of type add remove, right? Add team request or remove team request, right? And we could even go so far as to create a type from this. So if we refactor, no, we'll just go up here and we can just say, hey, our type team request equals that. And here we can just say, hey, this is a team request. And why do we care about this, right? Did I not import signal? Oh, it needs an initial value. So we're gonna add type. We're just gonna say null request equals boom and request type null. Yeah. Right. And we can add this here. Null request. And then here we can just say, why am I even going this far? Well, I want to avoid nulls, so we can just say request type null, right? So there's our team request. Why do we care about this? Well, here we can just say that our request is this dot team request. So now we've got a signal that we can use, right, on our team. And then so now that we've got this, we can now take the request here, right? Um, so we can pull the request off. Um, it's going to return something. So here for right now, we're just going to return promise.resolve, whatever. And now we need to get our team resource out to we need to be able to get it, right? So we can just say, hey, get yeah, we'll call team, right? And this will just return this dot team, right? So now we can get the resource. It's injected in root. So we can now go back to our Merc list here, right? And instead of saying, hey, our Mercs is this, now we can just say, no, our Mercs, well, our Merc resource equals, and now we can just say, hey, it's just Merc resource. And actually I need to inject it, right? Inject Merc, what did I call? I called it team resource, right? Team resource dot team, right? I don't need that, but I can inject that. So now I've got a Merc resource, but now this is dot mercs dot value, mercs dot value, and I called it mercs resource. So now our for loop is able to handle this, and the other thing we can do is there an at loading? That not, oh, that's a defer block. Never mind. But anyway, now while our mercs are loading, it's going to say you haven't selected any team. We'll have to see what this does for us, right? Property ID does not exist on type never. Am I returning a never type from our mercs? So our team request is a writable signal. Oh, we're still returning never here. And our loader can return a promise. But we need to figure out what goes in this before we do it, right? So this is the last thing we return, right? So actually we can just bail, right? We can say if request.request type we can say, hey, if it equals null, Oh, does it have a request on it also? Okay, well, in that case, we don't want to name this request. We can name this team request, right? And then we can go team request. And here we can just go, hey, if team request dot request type is null, then we return that, right? No, that needs to be the last thing we return. Never mind. So the first thing we can do is let's just do an add team request, right? So if team request dot request type equals add team member, and for right now, what we can do is we can also create a private variable, and this is our current team. Yeah. And here, instead of this, we just return, we always return current team, right? This dot current team, boom, right? So if we're adding a team member, we can just say, hey, this dot current team, and for this, we're just going to add it. And you know what? This is a bad way to do it. We can just say, hey, this dot current team dot concat, yep, concat team request dot, right? And the cool thing about this is that we know the Merc is on there because we've narrowed it, right? So team request, it's an add member, and this is why we're using why we created these extra types, right? Um, and yeah, um, so now we've got our loader can handle this, but we're not actually providing a way for this to happen, right? So what we can do is we can do add team member. Um, and now our team request, we can do dot set, right? So our signal, we're passing through our new Merc, right? Um, and this gives us power because now we can go to our Merc choice component and we can also inject. Here we can read only, and this is our team resource. So we can inject our team resource dot team. Boom. So now we've got our team resource, and down here, we can say, hey, we want a protected higher Merc, right? And our higher Merc is just going to go this dot team, yep. And then we're going to grab the next Merc. And that's all we want to do. So now our hiring. Oh, and we don't even need this dot team. We want to use the actual resource itself or the actual service itself, not the resource. So I may have misnamed this a bit. Why do I have a 1 here? I must have hit a key on accident. And so this is no longer a team resource. We can rename this and we'll just call it our team. So there we go. We're now adding a team member. So there we go. So if I hire this person, what is going on? Let's exit from here. Oh, we don't have an ID on our Merc. We're going to go to our person class. We're going to add an ID. And this ID is a number. And our ID is 0 to start with on our empty person. That works. And then in our service, where we grab this and get person, so person.id equals, and here we're just going to grab the ID. Okay, so our ID is a string. So that's easy to fix. And the nice thing about that is that we can just make this an empty string and we're fine. Boom. And so that fixes that. That's wrong. ID should exist on type person. That's the wrong one. It's the Merc list. Yeah, it is tracking it here. My rebuild not working. Oh, there we go. No, that's not right. My rebuild still hasn't rebuilt, so we'll just break out it. Oh, wait a second. Yeah. We'll break out and we'll rebuild it and just see what it comes up with this time. And I've been going for almost 2 hours. Needed a drink. So there we go. This built. So now we go back and let's just refresh this to be certain. I almost said certain. Oh, what's going on here? So, something isn't right here. Let's just console.log current team here and just see what's going on, right? So here we go. We do that and we're not getting into the loader. Oh, yeah, of course we're not. Of course we're not. In our Merc choice, um, this is still doing next Merc. This should be higher Merc. There we go. That will solve our issue, right? So now we can see, hey, we hired Tanwei, and we just hired R2D2, right? We hired Dorme, we hired Lars, and at this point we want to stop, right? We don't want to be adding. We're going to put a max of 4. Um, we'll always skip Jar Jar, right? Let's at this point, right? We've got the ability to add it. Let's make these cards better. Um, so we're going to, and the nice thing about this is our stuff shows up immediately, right? So we're able to skip our mercs and all of that, and things just work the way we would expect them to. Um, yeah, let's add some stuff to just make this better, right? Um, so in our merc list, right now we're just grabbing the merc name. Um, let's add some stuff here that will allow us to display a nice card that we can use, right? So we're going to come over here, and within our Merc list, we're going to generate a new component. And this component, we're going to call it our, we'll call it our Merc card, right? And we're going to do some stuff to it, right? So we want it to be on push. We don't care about display block because we'll handle that ourselves. Export default, no. Inline style, inline template, sure. Module, no. Name, this will be our Merc card component. Did I skip over the selector? I didn't. Selector will be our app dash Merc dash card. Style CSS type. We're going to go with NG on this one. And there we go. So we'll generate this. Within our Merc list, we added our Merc card. So we'll go ahead and grab our Merc card, right? And we don't want the NG on that. So what we want is an input on this, right? So we're going to go with a read only Merc equals input dot required, and this is a person, right? So we'll make sure that we import all of this stuff. And one thing we don't need the common module here. We aren't using anything from the common module. And we can actually take out the styles because we aren't using those either. And we want just a quick, we want some classes, right? So here we're going to go class, and we're going to go border. Um, so for right now, we'll do this, and our template here is going to be, we'll just add really quick our merc.name, right? Unresolved variable name. Oh, there we go. So now if we go back and take a look, it won't do anything. The reason it won't do anything is I didn't add this card to anything. Let's go back to our Merc list. And instead of doing this, we're going to defer loading of our template. Add defer. And here we're just going to go app Merc card Merc equals, and it's fine. We can pull this in. We do need the common module for the for stuff, and that should work. Why Angular? Oh, wow. It's been a while since I've had that question. The reason I do Angular is because I've done Angular forever. I am an Angular GDE. That's a Google developer expert. So, there's incentive for me to produce Angular content. But why I chose Angular, there were a lot of reasons back in the day. I've been doing web development for a long time. Do I work at Google? No, I don't work at Google. In fact, I'm looking for a job right now. Um, so yeah, mainly I'm just looking for a job and sharing programming insights with others, right? Um, but yeah, the reason I chose Angular is I enjoy Angular. Um, so there we go. There's our card. And we've now hired some people. We've got our cards in place. Um, so with 4 cards in place, this is pretty big. So I don't know. There's there's stuff we could do. I don't know how far we want to get into it. Like one of the things I would like to do is figure out how with Bootstrap we could make these cards. Like this one should be square, the next, or this one should have a rounded bottom. When we add this should have the rounded bottom. This one should be square. That would be nice, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. So what I want is in the top, I want the person, and then maybe we'll have a little link on the bottom to delete it. Uh, do you do backend stuff? I am a full stack dev, and I have done streams where we've done backend stuff. I've done backend stuff in Node, .NET, Java, um, something called InterSystems Cache, which probably most of you have never heard of. Um, and yeah, those are the big ones. Um, you know what? Let's do guys. We're hired, right? So let's go to our Merc card here. Let's do border green. We'll do like 800 a bit of a darker green. Um, we'll even do text dash green dash. We'll do like a 500 on this one and just see what this looks like, right? We add somebody. That's not bad. It's not bad. Let's take our padding down just a little bit. Uh, and it's weird that my gap 2 isn't working. Let's try gap 4. See, we get more of a gap between our. We hire somebody and see these are right together. Not sure why. Because this is definitely a flex. Set to flex column. See what our gap is doing, right? So if we inspect this, oh, look at that, my Merc list. Oh, I've got the, no. I've got my flex in the wrong place. My flex needs to be on the Merc list. So on the Merc list itself, we need this stuff right here. So on our Merc list, we can take out this the styles because we don't need the display block anymore. Instead, we can do host class. And we can paste this in and put it in quotes, add our comma. And now our stuff should show up better as we add one, boom, boom. That gap is way too big now. I think a gap of 1 will be fine. But the rounded top doesn't belong here. It belongs on the card. And I think that will solve our issue. There we go. Right. So there we go. We've now got a card that will display, and what we can do is in the top, we can put their name. In bigger letters, we can put the price that they're hired for, and then we can have a remove here. We'll start that. Is Angular better than React? That's kind of a loaded question. And a question that's likely to get me in trouble. Is Angular better than React for some things? Is React better than Angular for some things, right? Trade-offs. Always trade-offs, right? When you're building big corporate teams, Angular often works better than React because it's opinionated. And so when you work in Angular, you know where to find components, you know where to find services, you know what a service is, you know what a component is, and things like that, right? With React, quite often, every company tends to develop their own, let's call it a dialect of React, right? They speak React, but the way they speak React is different from every other company out there, right? Everybody can kind of understand themselves, each other, right? It's kind of like English, where English in the US is different than English in Canada, is different than English in the UK, is different than English in Africa is different than English in Australia, right? And there are idiosyncrasies between the way English is spoken in all the different places. And that's kind of the way I look at React, right? Somebody from the US can absolutely talk to somebody from the UK, but if the UK says, "Hey, I'm gonna go put on my jumper," to somebody in the US, a jumper is definitely different than somebody in the UK. And so, there's some weird like, wait, what did you say? Right? And somebody in the US, grows up and they love eating biscuits and gravy for breakfast. But you tell somebody in the UK, hey, I love biscuits and gravy, they're gonna look at you like, what is your problem? Why would you put gravy on biscuits, right? Because again, slight idiosyncrasies in the meanings and terms and stuff like that, right? And then accents are different and things like that. And the reason I say it that way is React is very similar, right? Like React teams can talk to each other and understand what each other's saying and say, oh yeah, we agree on that. But it's the slight idiosyncrasies between companies that takes you time learning, right? And Angular has the same problem, but not to the level of React, where everybody's brought in their own libraries, everybody's brought in their own way of doing things, everybody, right? And so um, there is a benefit there. The flip side to that coin is that everybody and their grandma does React, right? So if you want to hire developers quickly, or you want to prototype something quickly, or right, like React is where you go. And so, right, like it's trade-offs, right? And we haven't even talked about Vue, and some of the other frameworks out there. Um, so really, it comes down to, what are you skilled in? What you think you'll be the most, what do you want to call it, like the most productive in? And you know when you're productive, um, you know will you be able to maintain that? What I mean by that, will you be able to bring in developers? Well, developers understand the code you've written, right? There's whole bunches of things that you need to consider. Like, am I biased towards Angular? Absolutely. Do I think Angular solves every problem? Absolutely not. Um, and I think even like Minko from the Angular team, he presented something that was a bit clickbait, but he basically said Angular and React are the same thing at a conference. And it was a great clickbait because it got me to click on it and take a look. But his argument, and if you don't know who Minko is, it's Minko Getchev. He's um, he's kind of like the public face of Angular, is a good way to describe him. Just a really down to earth guy, amazing guy, fun guy to talk to. If you ever get a chance to talk to Minko, you should do it. Um, but his whole premise wasn't that, oh, Angular and React are the same thing, blah 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 blah, right? And a lot of people in Angular right now are complaining, and they're like, oh, you're turning Angular into React. Well, no, that's not the case. But when it comes down to it, Angular and React do the same thing, right? Angular and React create components. Angular and React give you a way to put components onto a page. And Angular and React often have libraries that allow you to manage the state, right? That was his argument in, why things were the same. At least that's me paraphrasing and horribly simplifying it, right? Um, Lots of other things to consider, but yeah, that's um, that's my take on the framework wars. Can you look at my app? Not today. Um, if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, you can DM me. You can DM me on LinkedIn, and we can talk about your app. Right? I'm happy to take a look at it, and potentially discuss it. But today we're definitely. Um, oh, MP Skeeter, thank you for that. Yeah, just initial thoughts. That'd be happy to do it. And you want no gap on that? Let's do that, right? If we do first rounded T and we do last rounded E medium. And you want me to take out the gap? We'll take out the gap. We can do that. So we'll take out the gap, and it's going to do kind of like what I was talking about. Thank you for looking that up for me, MP Skeeter. It was probably bugging you, right? So we've got rounded top and bottom here, and now we've got rounded top, rounded bottom. And when we add these together, this is what I was discussing. I actually gap and padding too. You want to remove the padding also from it, huh? Um, Hey, Emperor Maximilian, I'm not gonna be able to take a look at that for you on stream. So if you want to talk about it, reach out to me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on Twitter. Should be able to see both of those. They should be coming through, I believe. Oh, is that not working? Oh no. I think I've got it set up to auto, but I don't have the command in anymore. Um, I'll fix that out. Twitter is owned by a Nazi. Um, so uh, first of all, good job baiting. I almost said something here, but I'm not interested in discussing politics. I understand that people feel very strongly both ways about what's going on. If I get into politics, then my stream is going to devolve into politics, and that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to try and help everybody um, learn programming, right? I'm less interested in discussing politics. If you want to discuss politics, feel free. There are a lot of other people who will talk about politics. I don't. I have Blue Sky. I don't use it as much, and part of that is um, the integrations for streaming are so much better. Like right now, with the click of a button, I can stream to Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. And so, like, more people follow me there. So if you have a problem with Twitter, and that's absolutely fine. I don't like if you have a problem with Twitter, I get it, and I appreciate your viewpoint. Um, Talk to me on LinkedIn, right? My LinkedIn profile is Jason Warner. You can find me really easily um, through LinkedIn. Um, reach out to me through LinkedIn. Right, DM me there, or DM me through Twitter, or not through Twitter, through Twitch. Um, what I really need to do is just set up a Discord channel. So you're the second person. No LinkedIn. Then just DM me through Twitch, and we could talk about it through Twitch. After the stream, right? And potentially set up something where we could look at it on the stream or whatever. But right now, I've got to stay focused. I need to get this done. And MP Skeeter, um, I see what you're saying. I do want that slight gap in there. I want to put that gap one back in. Um, but there's some issues going on, and one of the things we can do um, is it's this paragraph tag. Um, so here, let's do this, right? So let's just go here and let's go flex and flex dash call. And we'll put a gap of 1 in here too, just because we can. And here, what we can do is we can go and we can add a div. And for our class, we can set this as bold. We'll go font bold. And we'll go text. Or I think we can just do, yeah, we can do text dash center because we're using text, right? Text dash center. And here we can put in our Merc name. right? And this should make our stuff appear a little bit better, right? We still have this gap that we can investigate. Um, I just want to get this done, and then tomorrow we can work on um, preparing this for the workshop tomorrow evening. So the reason I'm doing this is I'm putting together a workshop, so we can see our div. I believe it has a line height on it. Um, but one of the things we can do is we can take this padding on the top and bottom. So we can change this from a P2 to be a PX2, right? Because we want the padding on the sides, um, but on the top and bottom, we don't care as much, right? So here's Dooku. Um, we want the price that we hired Dooku for to show up, right? And we want that to be big. Um, so the next thing we can do is we can say, hey, let's add a div here, class equals, and we can say, yeah, we want text center, and we want merc dot cost. What did I say? What did I call it? On the person, we can go take a look at our person in our models. Hire in credits. So we can say we want our merc dot hire in credits. And we want our number pipe in here, so we need to import our number pipe. Really? Is there not a number pipe? I thought there would be number pipe. Because if I import the common module, we bring that in from Angular. We get the pipe, and maybe I just need to import the common module. That's fine. Um, but let's also do text dash XL. And let's see what that looks like. We're paying more for the Wookiee than we are for the Jedi. That's awesome. Um, but there we go. So, now we've got the price going on. I think I'm going to take the bold and put it on the price. So let's go here and we'll go font dash bold. And we made it larger. I think I'm going to go, maybe we'll try text screen 800 and see, like, no, no, let's make the price, like, I want the price, well, maybe, I don't know, you guys tell me, because here the name is standing out and the price is kind of fading into the background, and I'm okay with that. Um, One thing we could do is on this, we could go hover border green 500, and we could also go hover text green 500, right? And so now when we add somebody and when we hover, oh, see, I wanted this to also change. But to do that, I would need parent queries and stuff like that. Um, and Wedge is not worth much, huh? If Padme is worth almost a half a million, and Wedge is like 1/10 of her price. Lando, that's probably a pretty cheap price for Lando. Jar Jar is way overpriced. You need to be able to remove him from the team. Gap one should be gap dash one. Did I put gap space one in something? Oh, I did. Good catch. Thank you. Thank you for that catch. Um, uh, I think you can do like parent hover text dash green dash 500. Does that work? It's been a while since I've done this. We'll see if that works. No, no. Oh well. I know there's a way to do it. Like one thing we could do is we could add like could add some CSS variables and on hover we could change those CSS variables. Um, but I don't care enough right now to do that. The last thing we want to do is let's just do a last div, right? And this is going to be class equals font dash. We'll do an extra small here, right? And we can say, hey, we want an A. Actually, let's just do a button. And let's do text dash right. And this will be our delete button. And this will be type equals button. And I might have to do like place items or something here. And let's close this so you guys can all see what's going on. But my type button, and then here we can also add in class equals button. And then we can do button dash warning. There we go. Oh, that's huge. That is way too big. So let's go with button dash extra small. And I don't think I need. I can do align right here instead of text right. And now if we refresh, still way too big. But that whatever, right? If class equals, so it was text right. That one was fine. I think I could do place items also. Um, but I don't, yeah, text right's fine. And then here, let's also do on our so we can also do a padding bottom of 2 because that button doesn't have padding around it. And we want, we want this similar experience all the way around. And the reason we want this experience all the way around, and the reason I didn't put the padding or the margin on the button is if I decided to move the button up here or something like that, we don't want that to be to mess up the layout. And I've worked on teams where moving items inside of a container causes the container to be messed up. That's definitely not what we're looking for. Create a new div group, wrapping lines 9 through 13 on your price group hover text screen. Probably, um, probably right, MP Skeeter. And we could probably do more along those lines. The point of this is more that we should have hired Vader. That was a bad choice. Um, um, but yeah. Um, the point of this is more the interactions, right? The styling definitely needs work. Um, but right now, let's get this delete button to work. And then I think I need to end for the day. I've got to focus on like doing some job stuff and some other things like that. But I wanted to get this application working. And I, in particular, wanted to create this special resource that's not tied to anything. It's not tied to an HTTP background or backend. It's not tied to anything but itself. So I wanted to show, how we could create our own resources and potentially use them, right? So the first thing we need to do is we need to say, and we can take this out. We can say, hey, if team dot team request type equals remove team member. Now we need to filter out our team member, right? Um, and that is exactly the code that I wanted to write. Um, and why doesn't it like this? ID is string, Merc ID. Oh, I need to make Merc ID a string. That's the problem. Boom. So that fixes that. And that's TypeScript catching, hey, you're trying to compare a number in a string, um, and that can lead to some weirdness. So it was right to call that out. So we've now got the ability to remove them. Now we need to go to the Merc card, and we need to create an output that will, so we can go read only, delete Merc equals, and here we can just go output, and here it's going to be a string, boom, right? Um, so we've now got our output set up, and so our delete button, we can now add our click handler to it. Um, and you could absolutely just go here and you could go delete Merc, right? Um, dot emit and then the value. I don't do that. I like to add a handle to it. And the main reason I add handles to my stuff um, is there may be logic that I may want to add in the future, right? So we'll add a protected handle delete, right? Um, and then we'll just emit the Merc ID, right? Um, So now we've got the ability to delete the Merc, but our Merc list isn't doing anything with it. Um, And so all we need to do is just add delete merc equals handle delete merc. And here we want the event, right? And so now we can just go down here and we can go protected, handle delete merc. And oh, we didn't add anything to the resource, right? So we'll go back to our resource. We'll save this. We'll go back to our resource. And down here, we just need to delete team member. And merc ID is a string. And there we go. So now here we can just go delete team member. Boom. What? Did I misname it? So here's my team. Delete team member. Elite team member. It's not picking it up. Merc's resource. Oh. Oh. So got a problem. What we can do instead is we can do read only. And here we can inject our team. And this will be inject team resource. And then our Merc's resource can be our team resource.team. And then this is not the Merc's resource. This is my team. Boom. And now my delete team member works. And so now we can add, oh no, what did I do? I broke something. Let's try refreshing just to see. If I inspect, got a bunch of containers here. Why do I containers? Is my defer not working? Let's try restarting this. It could be just a problem with the HMR, the hot module reloading. So let's see if I refresh this, if something got messed up, right? It's just not picking up something or something along those lines. So if I hire, nope, we're definitely. We're getting some containers in place. Let's take Um, oh, I've got an extra paren here. Where did that come from? Um, man, there we go. So Beru, right? Owen. So we can add them. Jocasta, huh? Right. And now we can add and delete as needed. So the last thing we need to do is just get a total credits, right? So down here, let's add in a total. And for that, we're just going to do a button. Button um, class equals button dash success. Um, and here we're just going to say pay, and we want a total, right? So we need a way to provide um, our total. So we want a total. So we've got the Mercs resource, and we can just say, hey, Mercs resource dot total, um, and let's pipe that through a number. So there we go. So we need a way to get the total from the Mercs resource, um, and that's going to come off of the resource itself. And what we could do is we could just add a constructor. Actually, no, we don't even need that. What we could do is we could just add a request or a read only um, total cost, and this will be a computed variable, and it's going to watch um, so we need to watch something, right? And hmm, so what we're going to do is we're going to change this over to be signal. And this is going to be person that, boom, boom. And now we can take this off. So we can say current const team equals this dot current team. And then we can just return that. I don't like the name ACC here. Let's do total merc dot hiring credits, and you start with 0. That works great. The default value is that But we're going to also do this dot current team dot. Well, we're just going to return the signal from here. And that should fix that up. But now we can't concat onto this. We have to do an update. So we can do this dot current team dot update. And current team. And this returns current team dot concat. Boom. And again, we can just say this dot current team, and we're going to update again. And our current team. And we're just going to filter out our current team. So what we've done is we've turned our current team into a signal. And the reason we turned it into a signal is now we can respond to changes to the current team. And so our total cost is just we compute it based on the current team, right? And so now if we go to our Merc card, down here, my button, that's my delete. No, it's my Merc list. This is the total cost, right? Did I not call it total cost? I did, but it's also not the Merc's resource. I need to make my team protected now. So protected, read only, and now my team actually, instead of making that protected, let's just go protected, read only, total cost, and actually, let's just do protected, get total cost, and we'll return this dot team dot total cost, right? And so now we can just grab our total cost off of this. Convert it back to a signal instead of reading it there. And so now when we hire, now we've got the total cost. Oh, well, that was silly. So we're going to add an at if total cost is greater than 0, then we've got our button, right? So now if we take a look, the operator blah, blah, blah cannot be applied to signal and number. You're absolutely right. So if total cost is greater than 0, then we'll show the total cost button. So there we go. So we now have the ability, oh, we got Vader in here and Maul. This would have been impossible. Maybe that's why we're getting such a discount on Maul. And oh, this also messes up the bottom. Yeah. What a, oh well.
We hired Vader's mom for more than we're paying for Vader. We must be using time travel to get Maul and Shmi in there. Um, oh, and we'll throw Vader's son in there too, right? Because I actually find this hilarious that we've got Vader, Maul, Shmi, and Luke. Vader would have absolutely hated Maul. We're paying such a discount for Vader's son. That's hilarious. Um, anyway, the last thing I want to do is just make this pay credits, just remove everything. So here we're just gonna say um, pay for team, right? Um, and all we want to do is just do this dot um, team request um, dot set request type null. Um, no, we're gonna create another request type. Um, we're gonna do type clear request equals boom request type clear, and we'll add this here to the end. Now we got a clear request. So team request dot set request type is clear. Great. And so up here, all we want to do is we can just say, um, and these can really be else if, right? Else if this, else if team is clear, then we just set the current team to be empty. Um, and so, now we can hire, right? Like that's a good price. R2D2 is a bit expensive, but whatever. 3PO is gonna be 3PO is gonna be devastated that we didn't even pay anywhere near what we did for R2. I find that hilarious. Um, right, Wedge, and then as soon as we hit pay, oh, I didn't link this button up. Always, always, always some detail, right? Total cost button. Um, so my click is going to be hire mercs, right? And then down here, protected, hire mercs. Um, and we're just going to do this dot team dot hire team. Um, pay for team. I like hire team better. Hire team is a lot better. So we're going to go there. There's my hire team, hire mercs. There we go. Um, now when we come in, we pay for Luke. We also grab 3PO. He'll feel better that he's worth more than Luke. I don't know who Jack Dexter is. We'll grab R2, who always has to be more than 3PO. We don't want Senator Organa. We don't want Dorme. Sly Moore. We'll grab Vader for fun, right? Um, so here we go. Original trilogy characters all together again for 2 million credits. Whatever. That's what we want. Hey, why isn't my pay button working? Um, okay. So we've hired Lobot, hired Wedge. We're gonna pay a little over 1 million credits. Hire Mercs. Hire Mercs. Oh, it's weird. That works. Now Angular knows what click does. Does that work now? There we go. So we can hire Vader again, Senator Momothma. Um, sure, we'll throw Django in there, but he's dead by the time. Right, Django was killed. Wat Tambor, I think, was killed by Anakin. Um, and Akbar needs to be there to tell us it's a trap, right? So we need to recognize traps. There we go. For 1 million, we're getting quite a team. Let's go ahead and pay for that. Boom. There we go. We've got our application. Um, we've got our pick your team Jedi team. Um, Hi, brother. This is hard to read for me. I prefer to keep my HTML separate. What do you think? Um, so I definitely need to end. I've been doing this for 3 hours almost, but we've talked about this a couple times during the stream. The reason I do this, and there's a good reason for it. I keep my template here because as the um, as the template grows, my source file grows. And there's just a piece of my mind that when we when we reach like around 100 lines of code, I start to get a bit anxious, right? And so if my template plus my code to handle the template starts to grow, um, then I know it's time to do something, right? And we talked about, you can only use defer on standalone Angular components, right? So if we want to get the benefits of defer, if we want to get the benefits of other things like that, then the best thing we can do is start to break our components down when they start to get large. Um, and one of the tricks that I use for myself personally is template. If it's difficult for you, keep them separate, right? There's no other reason than it's a personal preference, but it's a preference that I have reasons for, right? It's not just, oh, I like it. It's definitely, there's some reasoning behind it. Um, but I also recognize that as a development team, your development team, and we talked about this a little bit with React, but you kind of start to develop dialects, right? Is a good way to put it, right? Like, we speak different types of English around the world, um, right? American English is way different than like Australian English, right? Well, not really. Like an American and Australian can talk to each other, um, but if you know I say, hey, I want to wear a bonnet, um, right? Somebody in Australia is going to be like, well, what? Right? So, just, just different dialect, things like that, right? And what you're talking about is what I refer to as dialects, right? Having your HTML in a separate file, fine. That's okay. I don't care. Um, if that works for you and I join your team and your team has decided that's what they want to do, that's what I'm going to do, right? But when I'm on my own or when I have influence over a team, I'm probably going to influence a team to write their code this way. And it may not sit well with you, and that's okay, right? But what we want to do, especially when we start building larger and larger teams, we want to come to a consensus. So even if I feel strongly about this, if the rest of the team is like, yeah, that sucks, dude, don't do that. I'll be like, okay, that's okay. I don't need to win this one, right? It's okay if the template sits somewhere else. It's okay, right? Um, so absolutely. If you keep the HTML in a separate file, that's perfectly fine. Just be consistent, right? That's the best thing you can do. And the other thing is be careful about enforcing your will on others, especially in big teams, right? Um, you don't want to create churn through your decisions. Um, so, um, yeah, sounds like a computed signal in Merck's resource. Yeah, it was a computed signal. Thanks for that call out. Um, Definitely going to end here. Um, I'm happy with where the application is, and it's something that we can show um, in the workshop tomorrow. What I want to do is tomorrow during the day, I want to come in and basically create the different steps. So like if you guys have ever been in workshops before, you'll come in and you'll have the application framework, but everything's broken. That's our first step, right? The initial step is everything's broken. The next step past that would be, right, um, we've created the signal that will load in this value here. The last step will be that, we're using the resource that manages this. Um, and so those will be the three steps of the workshop. And I'm hoping we can cram that into an hour. Um, but it will all be up on the repo. We'll be creating the tags so that people can check things out. um, and definitely come join us tomorrow. You know I'm going to be doing Angular community meetup. So the reason we're doing this is tomorrow, um, on the 25th at 6 p.m. Mountain. This is me. May the resource be with you. So we're building some stuff with resources. Um, so tomorrow by 6 p.m., I have to have this workshop put together. It's all put together. Tomorrow we'll put together some slides and stuff for it, and do some breaking things and things like that. But it looks like we've got 174 people signed up to be there. So it's going to be a good sized workshop. Really looking forward to it. I've had a lot of fun building this, and I can't wait to talk to people about resources tomorrow. So join us tomorrow for the stream if you can. Join us, for the workshop. It would be absolutely cool. I do know they record these workshops, so that it will be available. It'll be on the ngconf channel on YouTube, maybe. I don't, I don't know. It's been a while since I've been part of the meetup, um, as an organizer, so I'm not sure. But I do know it will be recorded. I do know it will be shared. Um, so looking forward to it quite a bit. I haven't even looked at your app, man. I'll take a look at that when I get some time. Really busy right now, and I don't want to interrupt the stream to look at an app. Um, but I'm happy to do it, and we can review it on a stream maybe when I'm not busy doing stuff. So maybe later in the week we can take a look at your app on stream, and we can talk about what's going on there too. Um, so give me I the rest of today is so busy. My daughter's got a dance competition and stuff like that. I definitely I've got stuff I've got to do, and then I've got family things that I don't want to call them obligations. I need to be a dad. So I'm gonna go support my daughter and have a good evening with her. Um, but Thank you guys for being here. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate all the questions. And MP Skeeter, thank you for the comments and the help. Um, you guys, a lot of times when you're coding and speaking at the same time, half of your brain has to be worried about speaking. Half of your brain is worried about what's in chat. The other half is worried about the code you're writing. And the other half is analyzing everything that you're saying for every like, whatever, like, vocal tick that you have that you're kicking yourself for over and over again. And I know that adds up to 200% of your brain. And that's why things get forgotten. I really appreciate people like MP Skeeter, who, are very kind and helpful. And thank you for that. You guys have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you tomorrow.